is very happy to work with you to move our projects and goals forwards.
Just listen to one of these really great songs, Why I'm Here by Oleander. That's the theme song for me today.
I'm a father of 4.
And maybe looks like we have a new member of Parliament.
I'm very proud to become a member at a time when our government is
theme song for me today.
Support and a break to Canadian families.
Because I can imagine it's pretty loud.
The recent tax break, which is
is this even working?
It's true tax relief.
All right, so yeah, this is a new member. I like his suit. Just give me a second to turn off that fan. It's warm in the office today. So this is the last day, Friday, of question period. It starts in about 15 minutes, so I'm just getting everything all ready, set it up for you all, so we can enjoy and watch this in a shiny, happy feel of it. People, yeah, this one band, Oleander, I totally forgot about them. Thank God to that Google feed, music feed. Like, holy crap, that song! Oh, that song! You know, a lot of these bands that back in the radio days didn't have lots of airtime, except for like one tune or two. Excuse me, right? Beautiful. Okay, I can't see anything now. Blinded by the light. Like up. What's the lyrics of that part? Like up, into the runner in the night. I don't think it's a nice part of that. It's pretty bright, so I'm going to put on, just for a little bit, these, my spectacles for the screen time. Okay, so welcome, the 3 of us, the 4 of us. At least that's what I have on my feed. No idea what exactly it is. So yeah, we have Parliament's last day. Summer is just they're calling it the spring session, but it feels more like summer, correct? Right? It's like summertime. This guy's got a long speech. I don't know who it is. They haven't pulled up his name yet from the feed, so I don't know what party. He was speaking French. Maybe he was Bloc Québécois. Je ne sais quoi. To mangle the horrible language. Oh, 3-0. Yeah, that's what the 3 trolls. Lovely. Okay, so that gives me a time. Since there's no viewers, I'm going to set up quietly here, and I'll put on some music for y'all while we're in quiet time. I could put the parliamentarians on, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to. There we go. Because hopefully I can get this channel. You know what I mean? There's a few people that troll the channel, so I must. There we go. Here's a song I made. It's labeled as Music 33, but it has another name. I don't remember which one it was. The root. Yeah, the route. Okay, so I will just need to put up the things on this. I guess I can yammer away. I'll try to yammer with. I gotta hold this. My other microphone is down, so there's no viewers. What you gonna do when you live in the shoe? Just praying to get some work so I can get out. In the Niagara region, I believe that I see the plans for the politicians, federal, provincial. We literally are at a point, in my opinion, that the housing crisis isn't going to be fixed in any shape, way, or form. The only answer is that there's homes for $50,000, $25,000. 50,000 to 100,000 in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, certain parts of Alberta, and Quebec as well. So basically, the way I see it is just try to make some money and whatever. And you can always, work somewhere, live in a hotel for a few months to pay your mortgage off. Once your mortgage is paid off, you're pretty good, right? Just your food and stuff like that. And I'm a garden kind of guy. I could live on very little. I'd be happier. This area is unfortunately for many, but unfortunately, it's the cost of living is. Cost of the house is be 80% of my house. It's just not viable for me. It's a place to live anymore. I think. I don't really feel like paying $400,000 for a house that needs $100,000 worth of work, and it's small. It's gone to the point where I don't see it. Actually, in about 10 years, it'll probably be better, but most likely it's not going to get any better at all. And luckily and happily, we live in a large country. I gotta hand it to Wab Canoe, the NDP leader. Funny, just peeked. It's funny, he kind of peeked over there. Wab Canoe, the NDP leader. I have nothing but great things to say about this, about the NDP leader. To be honest, he's been outstanding. He's Native American, and they were like, well, he did this and that bad and all kinds of stuff. But he has been outstanding. Has taken he's taken this fire that's going on and really highlighted of any other premiers that are having issues with this. He's highlighted it. He's made a lot of good things, like gotten the hotels together and trying to get all this people work. Been really out front of it, trying to get federal and other provinces assistance. He's been on all the news. Like I said, a lot more to help this problem, and this has happened several times, right? So this isn't the first time we've seen this, but by far, this one who they threw away during the election campaign. So it's just a little bit of retail politics, as he wouldn't be a good leader and this and that. And then yesterday when he was on CTV, I realized, oh yeah, he's even Native American. I didn't, To me, I don't think about it much. He doesn't advertise it much, but behind him on the wall, there was some writing, right? Some Native American symbology. I don't really know, to be honest. It's cool to know. I like it when there was a chief that during the Liberals campaign, actually, they had a chief go up and he had a little explainer. We don't get much of that. I didn't get it in high school or whatever. It's part of our culture, and it would be nice to have a little bit more of it indoctrinated into the teaching moments, right? I like the teaching moments, but happy for YouTube. There's all kinds, but I don't know what better when it comes straight from the chief, a leader of Canada. For me, okay, I know who this is, and this is, the right source. But Wab Canoe, I think he's he should be highlighted more in our country as an outstanding leader. And then on top of it, a leader for the nations, right? As it's called. I think it's a great thing in Canada. And never mind the fact that I honestly believe him to be the best premier we have right now. I think there's other premiers that are doing decent. We actually have a pretty good crop. No chaff. A pretty good crop of premiers at the moment, in my opinion. Even some will say, except the separatist part, that's kind of irking me. I don't really, But to me, it's up to the federal Conservative Party. Hopefully we'll see the federal Conservative Party pushing back against this separatist thing a little bit, because first of all, the polling shows that people don't want it, and it's sinking. And second of all, if you're a federal party, you want to be a federal leader, you don't push for disunity of the country, and no one. It'll be a destruction of this within the country. It's not going to be all flowers and hugs. Like, it'll be bad. It'll be bad. Every time a country breaks up, it gets really bad, right? Little small animosities, and those basically who are just looking to gain on someone else, they'll be out there, and they'll be from a different country. So it's awful. Okay, just give me 1 second here. Do you get any comments?
Boarded the ship for Canada to work as a maid in a home. The Queen Frederica embarked on the 15-day journey, landing at Pier 21 in Halifax on the 6th of June. My mom walked off the ship with no money, carrying a small suitcase containing just a few clothing items and not knowing a word of the English or French language. In truth, though, Mr. Speaker, she carried a lot more than that. She brought with her the dream that in this new country that she had chosen, she would be welcomed. With hard work, she would succeed, and her dreams would be fulfilled. She dreamt that she would meet someone, get married, have children, and grow a family in a country that promised every opportunity to educate her children, contribute to society, and to prosper. My father, John, also chose Canada as his home and landed at the same pier with the same dream. 1 year later, they met in Montreal. The following year, they were married. Born in Montreal, Mr. Speaker, my brothers and I grew up in a loving home guided by our Christian faith and by the values taught to us by our parents. It was in those early formative years that I learned the importance of civic engagement and realized that in addition to my own personal career path, I wanted to be of public service. For the past 35 years, I have volunteered in my community, and this ultimately led me to seeking an elected office. My election to Canada's Parliament in 2011. And
I like this guy. He's new. This is the second time. I really like him.
Instilled in me a deep love for our great country. Canada is indeed a country where everything is possible, even for two poor people who came here like so many others have, seeking a better life. For my family, my election was in part a fulfillment of a Canadian dream. Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this tired Liberal government, Canada's promise that with hard work, anyone from anywhere can achieve anything has indeed been broken. Taxes are higher, interest rates are up, grocery prices. My election was in part a fulfillment of a Canadian dream. Helpless as this Liberal government has lost its way. Unfortunately, the speech from the throne did very little to give people hope and to inspire optimism for better days ahead, Mr. Speaker. While there are some measures outlined that can be seen as steps in the right direction,
I regret to interrupt the member. It is now time for statements by members. The member will have...
Mr. Speaker, government, taxes are government. Canada's promise that with hard work, anyone from anywhere can achieve anything has indeed been broken. Taxes are higher. Interest rates are up.
I like this guy. I'm going to put back his little speech, and then we'll skip ahead after it.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this tired Liberal government,
I think he did a great job.
A country, and again in 35, that in Montreal as his home country that promised every mother was deprived of an education in these trying times.
$7 billion over time.
Okay, here we go. I have this guy, and then we'll go straight to live. It was a great speech. I like this hearing of it. This MP, Costas, he's new to me at least. Maybe he wasn't new, but they never really had him on much. But this is the second speech he's done that I think is it's outstanding. I think it's the way the Conservatives need to lead forward. Like the way it's the past history and bring it forward. I'm going to put it on, then we'll be live in a second. We'll miss one or two of the statements by members, but I just am going to highlight this. Hey, I don't got much, and there ain't,
by the honor that they have bestowed in me to represent them and our community in this, the home of democracy for Canada and for all Canadians. I know that the chair I sit in belongs to them. This is an honor and a privilege that I cherish, and I pledge to work tirelessly on their behalf to prove worthy of the trust they have placed in me. From the bottom of my heart, I thank my hard-working campaign team and the hundreds of volunteers who devoted so much of their precious time to help me spread a message of hope in these trying times. Mr. Speaker, it was in the third week of May in 1956 when my mother, Panayota, a young woman in her mid-20s, boarded the Queen Frederica for a transatlantic trip to Canada from her native country of Greece. Born in the 30s in the midst of the Great Depression, in a small village in the Spartan region of southern Greece, in a poor family, opportunities were virtually non-existent. The inevitable hardship that followed as the country was embroiled in the Second World War was only compounded by the Civil War that ensued in 1948. Like so many of her generation, my mother was deprived of an education. By the 1950s, it became evident to her that she did not have a future in her poor village in her own country. It was then that a friend told her about a country called Canada. At the time, the government of Canada had an immigration stream for domestics. Today, we call it the Live-in Caregiver Program. She applied and was one of 75 young women who courageously boarded the ship for Canada to work as a maid in a home. The Queen Frederica embarked on the 15-day journey, landing at Pier 21 in Halifax on the 6th of June. My mom walked off the ship with no money, carrying a small suitcase containing just a few clothing items and not knowing a word of the English or French language. In truth, though, Mr. Speaker, she carried a lot more than that. She brought with her the dream that in this new country that she had chosen, she would be welcomed. With hard work, she would succeed, and her dreams would be fulfilled. She dreamt that she would meet someone, get married, have children, and grow a family in a country that promised every opportunity to educate her children, contribute to society, and to prosper. My father, John, also chose Canada as his home and landed at the same pier with the same dream. 1 year later, they met in Montreal. The following year, they were married. Born in Montreal, Mr. Speaker, my brothers and I grew up in a loving home guided by our Christian faith and by the values taught to us by our parents. It was in those early formative years that I learned the importance of civic engagement and realized that in addition to my own personal career path, I wanted to be of public service. For the past 35 years, I have volunteered in my community, and this ultimately led me to seeking an elected office. My election to Canada's Parliament in 2011 and again in 2025 would not have been possible if my parents had not instilled in me a deep love for our great country. Canada is indeed a country where everything is possible, even for two poor people who came here like so many others have, seeking a better life. For my family, my election was in part a fulfillment of a Canadian dream. Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this tired Liberal government, Canada's promise that with hard work, anyone from anywhere can achieve anything has indeed been broken. Taxes are higher, interest rates are up, grocery prices have skyrocketed, home prices are up, and Canadians are left helpless as this Liberal government has lost its way. Unfortunately, the speech from the throne did very little to give people hope and to inspire optimism for better days ahead, Mr. Speaker. While there are some measures outlined that can be seen as steps in the right direction,
I regret to interrupt the member. It is now time for statements by members. The member will have about
dedicated to excellence. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate the 322 people who received a diploma or certificate at the 73rd graduation ceremony at the university at the Edmundston campus. This is a milestone in their journey, and I hope that many of them will choose to remain in our region. We have so much talent in our region, and it's an honor to represent here in Ottawa this beautiful riding. Thank you.
Columbia, Kootenay, South and Rockies.
On behalf of my colleagues, past and present, I rise today to pay tribute to the late Jim Gout, former Member of Parliament who passed away on May 27th after a courageous 3-year battle with cancer. Jim was first elected in 1993 as a Reform Party MP for Kootenay West, Revelstoke. He served for 12 years, 4 elections, later representing the Southern Interior BC with the Conservative Party. Before politics, Jim worked as an air traffic controller. His deep knowledge of Canada's transportation sector earned respect across party lines. A dedicated parliamentarian, he served on many committees, always focused on providing sound, informed advice to government. His maiden speech, he said, Those who are from the Kootenays know how incredible it is. Those who are from other places are mistaken in believing that theirs equal it. On retiring in 2005, Jim said it was time to enjoy life with his wife Anne and practice the 3 Gs, gardening, golf, and grandchildren. Jim leaves a legacy of service, integrity, and dedication. We extend our deepest condolences. May he rest in peace.
The member for Bay of Quinte.
Monsieur President,
Mr. Speaker,
I rise today for my first time as Member of Parliament for the great riding of Bay of Quinte. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude and optimism as I look out at this 45th Parliament and all the new faces and I also want to thank my wife Sandy and my daughters Nicole and Rochelle, and also want to thank the tireless volunteers who helped secure this victory for the Bay of Quinte. I wouldn't be here without you all. Mr. Speaker, I want to recognize that June is the start of Pride season here in Canada, and it's a time to celebrate the vibrancy and contributions of 2S LGBTQIA plus communities we have in my riding of Bay of Quinte and across Canada. It is also to recommit ourselves to the work that still needs to be done to ensure we have true equality and opportunity in our society. This Sunday, Pride Week starts in the Bay of Quinte, with events taking place.
La députée pour Belge.
the Honourable Member for Bellechasse Etchemy-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, after a throne speech that seemed inspired by fiscal prudence advocated by the Conservatives, the actions taken by the new Prime Minister quickly dashed any hopes. Promises of austerity in the morning, spending sprees in the afternoon, an additional $6 billion for consultants, while families in Lévis are lining up for food hampers. We had thought for a moment that the Prime Minister had finally understood the Conservative logic, reduce the tax burden by reducing the size of government. But he only half understood it. You can't cut taxes while inflating spending. That's not responsibility, it's inflation. And this uncontrolled liberal inflation has doubled the number of food bank users in some organizations in my riding in just 3 years. The Prime Minister seems to be following in the footsteps of his predecessor. Canadians deserve better. The House deserves better, and we deserve a budget this spring. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Rimouski, La Matapedia. Mr. Speaker, it's with immense pride that I rise today as Rimouski welcomes for the second time since 2009 the Memorial Cup, a must-see event in Canadian junior hockey. Since the start, our region has shown that outside the big cities, we think big. It's already a resounding success.
Memorial Cup,
the Saint-Laurent region becomes the land of champions, and at the heart of this success is the Rimouski Oceanic, the team of our region, that has renewed its confidence to host this prestigious event. I'd like to thank the Tanguay family, the committee led by Sébastien Noël, the volunteers, and the community for their exemplary mobilization. I'd also like to congratulate the young players for their talent and sportsmanship. Together, you have proven that our region can host major events and make them a success with pride, passion, and determination. Good luck to the finalists. And happy Memorial Cup. The Honourable Member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank the people of Ottawa Centre. It is a true honor to serve my community and a responsibility I carry with deep humility and commitment. Throughout the campaign, I heard a clear call for leadership that listens and delivers. That's what I'm here to do. I'll keep working hard to expand access to dental care, build more affordable housing on public land, and advance the seniors' health and housing hub at Confederation Heights. Revitalizing our downtown is also a top priority, from transforming the Dow's Lake and Arboretum into year-round community destinations to improving bike paths and supporting local businesses. And yes, I'm excited to keep pushing to bring the Ottawa Senators to La Breton Flats, along with a bold, community-led vision that includes affordable housing, Indigenous culture, and French language education. Speaker, I will always stand up for Ottawa Centre and for a stronger, more inclusive Canada. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
The member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
So this is what it looks like when a country is flying blind. No budget, no plan, and millions of families left in the dark. Parliament was shut down for half a year, and then came the snap election, and now the new Prime Minister wants to spend $500 billion but is refusing to deliver a budget. No answers, just smoke and mirrors, while real people are struggling to stay afloat. I know a young couple in the GTA doing everything right, working hard, saving every dollar, and yet they still can't afford a home. Pre-construction sales are down over 70%, and experts say a housing shortage is just around the corner. The dream of home ownership is slipping away. And for families who already own, mortgage payments are falling behind, groceries and gas are eating up what's left of the paycheck, and our young people, kids just starting out, drowning in credit card debt. No business would ever let a new CEO get away with this. The board would demand a budget, and Canadians deserve the same.
Hear, hear.
The member for Canada.
Mr. Speaker, last week I had the honour of being sworn in once again as the Member of Parliament for Canada.
I like this MP. She did a good plan
Volunteers who helped make
about the food program in schools. I liked it.
Moving and a moment I will never forget. Public service is a privilege, and I'm incredibly grateful for the trust that the residents of Canada have placed in me once again. I'm ready to work hard every day to be their voice here in Parliament and to champion the issues that matter most in our community. To the residents of Canada, Bells Corners, Stittsville, and Carp, it's an honour to serve on your behalf, and this seat belongs to all of you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
It turns out the Prime Minister was telling the truth when he said he was different from Justin Trudeau. He's actually worse. This week, the Prime Minister introduced his first spending bill, called the Main Estimates for the coming year. It's a $500 billion spending bill with no budget. He promised to cap spending increases to 2%, but then 1 hour later stuck Canadians with an 8% spending hike, nearly 3 times larger than inflation and population growth combined. Single moms, seniors, and small business owners have to budget before they spend. Why doesn't the Prime Minister? This all from the guy who said he was the man with the plan and would be a strong fiscal manager. The Prime Minister will claim these are investments that will make Canadians better off, but the only ones getting richer are government consultants, who will get a record-breaking $26.1 billion this year. That's even 36% more than what Trudeau gave them. Mr. Speaker, that's $1,400 from every Canadian household going to federal government consultants. Brookfield shareholders wouldn't have stood for this, so why should...
The member for London Centre.
Mr. Speaker, recently I had the honour for the 4th time to be sworn in as a Member of Parliament, now representing the constituency of London Centre. I thank Naturally, of course, I thank my colleagues and look forward to working with everyone in this House. Of course, I thank my family, my beautiful wife, Katie, our daughter, Ava, and all the volunteers who put aside so much time to put in signs, to knock on doors, yes, to write checks so the campaign could happen in the first place, all of those things. And I know that every member in this House feels equally about those volunteers. Nothing happens in democracy, of course, without them. And so the work begins, prioritizing matters like trade. I'm from London, Ontario. London is situated in southwestern Ontario, an area of the country that is disproportionately impacted by the Trump tariffs. Housing issues. I've spoken about housing and homelessness many times in previous parliaments. That will continue. That work is absolutely vital. And of course, Mr. Speaker, affordability. Affordability issues are paramount for all of us. Let's work together to get it done. Thank you.
The member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, 30 years ago this week, ink hardly dry on my U of A business degree, I started selling season tickets for the Edmonton Oilers Hockey Club. Those were difficult years, post-dynasty and a tough Canadian economy, and our small Edmonton market was in imminent danger of losing our NHL team to a wealthy U.S. buyer. But then something magical happened. Edmontonians stepped up in spectacular fashion, cobbling together complicated season ticket sharing schemes with their friends, family, and neighbors to, in mere months, double our season ticket base to save the Oilers from the American threat. Over my 10 years there, and for 20 more since, The Oilers fan base has never wavered in their support. In recent years, Oilers fans have been rewarded with one of the most exciting teams in the history of our great game. Today, the Oilers stand once again on the edge of glory, an entire nation cheering them on. I know that all members of this House, rarely united on anything, can unite behind this remarkable Oilers team. At this one critical moment in history, undoubtedly Canada's team. Bring it home, boys.
Oral questions, questions orales. Oh, forgive me. I was excited to start question period. The member for Hamilton Mountain.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the constituents of Hamilton Mountain for electing me to a second term. And thank you to all of the amazing volunteers who brought such passion and hard work to help make it happen. I would like to remind colleagues and Canadians that this weekend marks the start of National Indigenous History Month. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend a Red Dress Day ceremony at the Native Women's Centre in my riding, and the tears were flowing all around the room as we lit candles to illuminate the names of dozens upon dozens of local missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and 2S LGBTQI+ people. I wore the red dress pin. I beaded myself under the tutelage of a master beater at an earlier event at the center. I clearly do not have my teacher's talent, but the process of beading was painful and intensely meaningful. Let's all take time this June to reflect on the history of Indigenous peoples and how we can advance reconciliation.
And now, oral questions, questions orales. The member for Thornhill.
Spent weeks parading around the country and promising Canadians he'd, quote, spend less. But the guy who was supposed to give us fiscal restraint dropped an 8% spending hike, after promising he'd cap government spending at 2%. A big broken promise and a $500 billion spending bill without an actual budget. He called himself an Ottawa outsider, but he's picking up pretty quick on the ways of old Liberal Ottawa. Businesses and households across the country spend their money and live within their means. Why can't the Prime Minister do the same?
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. In fact, we have more good news, Mr. Speaker, for Canadians. In fact, Statistics Canada just announced this morning that the Canadian economy grew by 2.2% in the first quarter, Mr. Speaker. This is a plan that is working. This is a plan about building the strongest economy in the G7. This is about transforming our economy, Mr. Speaker. This is about an ambitious, a confident, and a prosperous Canada, Mr. Speaker. We will deliver for Canadians.
The member for Thornhill.
Leave it to the Liberals to tell Canadians that $500 billion blank check and an 8% spending hike after promising to cap it at 2% means good news for Canadians. A request for a $500 billion blank check isn't a plan. It's the exact opposite. And so far, the plan is the government wants to send $1,400 per Canadian family for consultants, for government consultants. He said they cut it by $7 billion. Instead, they increased it by $6 billion. If the Prime Minister is the man with a plan who you want to hire in a crisis, then why does he need to hire so many families?
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, this is an interesting question, but the real question this morning is how much the Canadian economy has grown over the last quarter. And the answer, 2.2%, much higher than economists' predictions. So when you have a plan to grow the Canadian economy, to make it the strongest in the G7, to transform our economy, to have an ambitious and prosperous country, Mr. Speaker, well, that's what Canadians have asked for, and that's what we're delivering.
Speaker, if the government had a plan, they'd table a budget yesterday and tell Canadians exactly how their money is being spent. And of course, nothing says affordability like hiring the architect of the housing crisis to fix the problem here. The new housing minister let Vancouver home prices rise by 179% when he was in office. So I have a very simple question. Can he tell us how much of this government's inflationary spending, how much is each Canadian mortgage going to go up as a result?
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I like this question period this Friday because we have so many good news for Canadians.
They have good news? What good news?
We have a plan, and our plan is working. 2.2%, Mr. in terms of growth in the last quarter. This is what Canada is about. It's about investing in our people. It's about investing in our industry. It's about investing in Canada. Mr. Speaker, not only we have growth, but we always have a triple rating, a AAA credit rating, Mr. Speaker. One of the two countries in the G7. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, that's a confident Canada. That's an ambitious Canada. That's the Canada we'll build together.
Le député pour Louis Saint-Laurent.
The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent, Akiawenrock. Well, Mr. Speaker, just a few weeks ago, all of these people were elected telling Canadians they would control spending. And on Tuesday, the King said that there would be new fiscal discipline with a maximum increase in spending of 2%. That was Tuesday morning. And then Tuesday afternoon, this government brought in new legislation. And actually, we saw that spending would go up by 8%. This new prime minister, who was supposed to be a global banker, who would have thought he would do worse than the former drama teacher, Justin Trudeau? So my only question to the Minister of Finance is, can you stop channeling Justin Trudeau? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Well, I have a great deal of respect for my colleague, Mr. Speaker. He's a veteran MP. But I don't know why he wants to distract Canadians from today's good news. For once, the Conservatives should be happy on a Friday morning, Mr. Speaker. We're looking at 2.2% growth in Canada.
2%, hey, it's better than recession.
We're predicting.
Recession is what was predicting.
To grow the Canadian economy. We have a plan to build tomorrow's economy. We have a plan for a strong Canada. That's exactly what we're doing. The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent, Akiawenrock. Well, what's really going up, Mr. Speaker, what's going up by 36% is this Liberal government's spending on consultants. Already, last year, they were spending way too much, 20 billion, and yet now it's gone up to 26 billion. They have shown no ability to control spending. We can see that. Canadians want a government that controls spending. Why is the Minister of Finance refusing to table a budget? In fact, he was criticized by his leader last week. Will the Minister of Finance commit to tabling a budget this spring? The Honourable Minister of Finance. No, I'm sorry.
The Honourable Minister, le Ministre. Oui, merci.
The Honourable Minister.
That's Tom Kamiuk,
That's fine. I don't need
the
my
backup
full
speaker.
I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. He mentioned drama, and I would just like to say that he also quite likes drama. We see him doing some pretty histrionic things during every question period. Well, we know that the Conservative platform wasn't worth the paper it was written on. Everyone who understands math throughout the country ridiculed the Conservative platform. Meanwhile, we on this side of the House, we were elected with a clear mandate to reduce dependence on external consultants and have a strong public service and accomplish our ambitious agenda. The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent, Akiawenrock. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not being theatrical. These are facts. This government said it would reduce its spending on consultants, but actually we're seeing the exact opposite. 36%. That's the increase on consultants. For those who are listening at home, know that for every single family, those consultants are going to cost you $1,400 in taxes. That's the signature move of this government. Will someone tell this Minister of Finance that it makes no sense to further increase spending on consultants? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, we have reduced our dependence on consultants, but we were also elected on a very strong mandate. A mandate to increase government efficiency, for example, by using new technologies. My colleague mentioned Canadian families. Well, this week we tabled a motion in the House, a measure in the House, to give back on average each Canadian family $840 in tax cuts. Will the Conservatives support that measure? It's only common sense. The Honourable Member for Gaspésie-Les-Îles-La-Madeleine, Listigouche. Well, Mr. Speaker, elected officials should never spend Quebecers' money blindly, and yet that's exactly what the Liberals are proposing today. They're asking the House to adopt measures that are worth more than $200 billion without a budget. Not a budget, not even an economic update. They are spending without even trying to count what they're spending. if this new government wants to put an end to the frivolous image of the Trudeau years, well, they're off on the wrong foot. Will they finally make it clear to Quebecers what is actually going on with the public finances? The Honourable Minister of...
Okay, so it seems like the opposition has zoned in 100% on two items, not the budget not coming out yet. And I actually, I think that it doesn't really sync with me personally that much. It doesn't like hit a home run because, you know, they did say they're coming out in the fall. They're going to be, 1 month of Parliament. They should have an idea of what's going on. I think personally they should go all the way to not take the summer break. They just had 6 months off, right? You know, and it's basically the same. I don't think they should take the break, to be honest. But that would be personally, I would think that would be my answer, to say, you know what, we will be, they would like downsize it. Okay, we won't have our committees, but we'll have 3 days a week, say, Parliament sitting. Instead of this summer barbecue circuit isn't required this year. They just came off an election, right? In my opinion, right? And there's a bunch of stuff going on, and to quell the fears, especially the separatist fears and all these other things, going away I don't think is going to help any of these issues. I think it's going to inflate them, especially as you see what's happening with the 15% on each side. The retail politics are going to have the only voice now. CBC shuts down their show. I think CTV as well shuts down their political show. So the only people that are going to be speaking are those paid by outside sources, which we know is happening, and those that are basically paid to say the most exasperating thing to get more clicks. I know I've been guilty of it a little bit too, and I've kind of seen the error in it, but it's that's where we're basically at, and so I think it's just, you know, it's like leaving the door open and having a walkie-talkie to, you know, invite someone in. It's just, you know, it's just, I don't know, that's a very, very weird one. It's like, it's not a good idea. It's just really not a good idea. It's like leaving the door open while you have a protest outside, right? Like, it's probably going to happen. What I think will do, it'll exasperate I want to call them radical voices. That's a bit extreme of a word, but those on the angry side, that, like I said, social media creates hate. It's a part of it. But you know, that's their choice. At least a few days of it. I think maybe their idea is if we go away, it'll slow down, but it won't. There's a large following of Canadian politics now, and they're all 90%. Even the ones that I'm sorry, there's a couple on the right that I'm watching. They're based on conflating hate, and you know, they don't have time. And I'm part of it. There's not much time for research and stuff. I spend 18 hours a day on looking at politics, and I'm fully aware that I have no idea what the heck's going on. You know, but I'm spending a lot of time, and maybe not as efficient as I should, but in between working out, you know. Well, there's a lot. They're not. They're like the party people, and they're getting clicks, and they're going to be expanding it. So I think the only way is really, first of all, they need to get the Conservatives on board with the separation issue. But the idea having an extra, good morning, 420. I checked out your site, your history, explained. Nice. So they, I think, to quell, to calm, just to calm it, I think they should be going on that. But the idea is basically both opposition parties are saying the same thing. It's that, and then consultants. I don't know about this new bill. I didn't read it, to be honest. I was looking more at international politics. Like I said, that's why I'm not as focused. I should have. But, you know, I've seen my numbers are down. And most likely my channel's done, right? So the bill came out, and they're all saying 36% of the Parliament is, right? A 36% increase in consultants. I don't know if this is true or not, but they've kind of said that, you know what I mean, over and over. There's a consulting increase in this budget. or this bill. Apologies. So these are the two things that the opposition are honing in on, and I don't think we've got a clear, good reply yet from the Liberals on it. He does has the answer. Hey, we've raised 2.2%. I think they're not strong arguments. The consultant one, I think, strikes a bit harder than the brushing blow of no budget. I think most Canadians think it's fine that we don't have a budget, new party, and this and that, in 100 days. Though I think personally I would say the answer again. We're going to sit all the way through Parliament. We're going to not go to our summer barbecue circuit. I'm already getting these emails asking for money from political parties. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to go do their barbecue fundraising, right? Begging barbecue tour, I like to call it. And, hey, that's how parties work. It's great, right? I think they should do, you do a show and you make money would be a good idea. Like Pierre can get a lot of people out. He could do a circuit and charge $1 admission, right? And then shirts and this and that and sell merchandise. I think they could make a lot of money that way. He's famous right now. But the other side of it is this consulting thing, and I don't know. They haven't answered it, and I haven't seen the bill, and they haven't been really clear and concise exactly, specifically in the bill. This is question period. The opposition doesn't have really time to be, but I wish they would actually put the line. So there's a lot of people watching politics, so we can say, okay, the 1.1.3.4 bracket, I right. IMI would be nice, so we can get there if that's the case, right? Because usually the bill, I imagine the bill is fairly long. But at this time, the Liberals have a little bit of breathing room, and Mark Carney's not in there today, and so I think that the arguments they're brushing blows, just like a nice owl caressing your arm. I don't know that. I'm sorry with these horrible metaphors today.
I have a great deal of respect for my new colleague, Mr. Speaker, and yet things are getting off on the right foot because the first thing we're doing is to bring in a tax cut for 22 million Canadians, including people in his riding, who will be very pleased to hear this news. 22 million Canadians will have to pay less in taxes. This is a key measure. During the campaign, we said we would make sure that Canadians had a more affordable lifestyle. And we're doing exactly what we promised. My colleagues should be happy to support this government measure. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, this government is continuing to spend Quebecers' money without a clear plan. They are trying to make people believe that they can continue to increase spending and yet somehow not increase the debt or cut services. Quebecers understand that makes no sense, but the Liberals are asking them to just trust them. Just trust us, even though we don't have a budget. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have shown over and over that they do not deserve Quebecers' blind trust. When will there finally be a budget? The Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, one thing is very clear. It's that Quebecers have placed their trust in us with 44 incredible Liberal MPs, twice as many as the Bloc Québécois, who have 22. Quebecers know that we are currently in a tariff war, which is directly affecting our workers and economy. Our Quebec MPs and ministers are here to defend Quebec. That's what we're going to do. The Honourable Member for Beauharnois, Salaberry-Soulanges, Huntington. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind the Liberals that Quebecers elected a minority government. They're expecting parties to cooperate. They're expecting transparency, and they're expecting some rigor. To bring in $200 billion in new spending without a budget to explain how these measures will actually be costed, that goes against the mandate that was granted to the Liberals, which was for cooperation, transparency, and rigor. Will the Liberals finally meet Quebecers' expectations? Will they table a budget? The Minister of Industry. The Liberal government will meet Quebecers' expectations, which is why Quebecers placed their trust in us. We saw that during the election. That's why we have 44 MPs, which is a record for our party. We're very proud of that. I'd like to thank all of my colleagues who worked so hard. Congratulations. And of course, we will on occasion cooperate with the Bloc Québécois. But the key point is that we will defend Canadian sovereignty. Whereas the Bloc Québécois prefers to just focus on Quebec sovereignty. We will be here to create jobs and protect our economy. That's our priority.
For Hastings, Lennox and Addington, and Tyne-Denaga.
The Prime Minister's first bill has shattered his spending promises. He was elected on a promise of financial transparency, accountability, and responsibility, and only 1 month later, he has already torn down that facade, treating taxpayer dollars like some seedy, secretive corporate bank account instead of the purse strings of this nation. Mr. Speaker, in what world can this Prime Minister justify spending $500 billion in taxpayer dollars?
Sorry, I couldn't help it. Newman! Seinfeld.
This new government is making sure that spending is being carefully managed and focused on our most pressing priorities. We will continue to review our spendings to make sure we are being efficient, effective, and focused on meeting the challenges and opportunities Canada faces.
The member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, and Tyne-Denaga.
This government's dismissive rhetoric does not stand up to scrutiny. They promised to cap spending at 2%, but hours later increased it by 8%. No fiscal anchor, no fiscal guardrails. We are in a fiscal freefall, and working-class Canadians are paying the bill, including nearly $1,400 per household spent on this Prime Minister's corporate consultant cronies. Mr. Speaker, it's insulting to Canadians. How is this Liberal government asking to spend $500 billion without a budget?
President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the investments in the main. It includes important funding to support the Canadian Forces, health services for First Nations, dental care, border services and immigration, veterans benefit and housing. The new government is investing in Canadians to build Canada strong.
The member for Haliburton-Kawartha Lakes.
Speaker, under these Liberals, it's the same spending, same ministers, and same painful consequences for Canadians. Except now, we don't know the government's full plan because they refuse to table a budget, something quite new to Canada. Budgets have been presented during wars, economic downturns, and yes, even following elections. We do know that this government has increased spending on consultants by 36%, meaning every Canadian household must pay $1,400 to get gimmicks instead of results. How is this Liberal government asking to spend $500 billion without even a budget?
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's the same old Conservative, but with new slogan, Mr. Speaker. We're just a week in this House, and they're coming back with slogan. On this side of the House, Canadians watching at home know they can trust us, Mr. Speaker, because we promise and we deliver. We promise to be there for Canadians, and the first thing we deliver, Mr. Speaker, was a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. There are people in this riding watching today, and they're going to thank this new Liberal government, Mr. Speaker, to make their life more affordable. But we have even more good news, Mr. Speaker. We're removing the GST on new homes for first-time home buyers up to $1 million, Mr. Speaker. This is
the member for Haliburton-Kawartha Lakes.
Well, Speaker, I don't think asking for a budget on behalf of Canadians is a slogan, and actually something Canada has always had, is a budget. In fact, this government has spent $330,000 just on consultants to rebrand a Crown Corporation. The goal of that name change is to get people real excited about high-speed rail from Toronto to Quebec City. People in my area have grown quite tired of waiting decades for this project to become reality. So when will the government actually get shovels in the ground instead of padding the pockets of well-connected Liberal consultants?
Minister of Transport.
I am glad to have the Conservatives finally talking about supporting big nation-building projects. At a time when our economy is being battered by U.S. tariffs, that is exactly what we need. Now is the time to get shovels in the ground. Now is the time to build high-speed rail. Now is the time to build Canada. That is what the Prime Minister will be talking about with premiers in Saskatoon. That is going to be what is in the bill that we will be presenting in this session, and we're going to count on the Conservatives to support that.
That's right. The member for Sibyl-Camine, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, the new Liberal Prime Minister is keeping the wasteful spending of Justin Trudeau. In fact, they are increasing spending on building bureaucracy and on well-connected consultants. The Prime Minister promised to cap spending at 8% and instead is increasing it at 2% and instead is increasing it by 8%. That's without even tabling a budget to give this House a full picture of our public finances. How is the Liberal government asking to spend $500 billion without a budget plan?
The President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the member that a lot of that funds in the main estimates are transfer payments to provinces and territories. That means billions of federal support for the members' province and the constituents. I challenge the member to join us in supporting these investments so that we can deliver services to Canadians and build Canada strong.
The member for Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, this week's throne speech confirms that Canadians are in for more of the same recklessness with this Liberal government. They promised to cap the spending at 2%. They've broken their promise again. Spending $500 billion, almost 8% more than Justin Trudeau. Same limitless spending.
Okay, so I'm just looking at, I think they're talking about Bill C-1, an act representing the administration of oaths of office. But that, to me, it was presented on the 27th of May. But it says House Government Pro Forma. House Government Bill Pro Forma. The text of this bill is not available. So that's all we have. Introduced as Pro Forma Bill. Pro Forma bills are introduced at the beginning of each session and do not proceed further than the first reading. And so I haven't found it. Maybe I haven't been able to get the reading of the bill itself to actually pull up the bill to be able to just, to glance over it. It would be nice to, I'll give you guys the link or write it out in a description or something. Maybe over the weekend it'll give me some other reading. But all I have is just latest activity. And that's it. Now I'll keep continuing to look on it, but I think this is the one that they're talking about, where all this spending. It was sponsors Right Honourable Mark Carney. Current status is introduced at Pro Forma. Latest activity was read on the 27th of May, 2025, House of Commons. I usually watch, actually, 24/7, the whole Parliament all the way through, but after, I only have... It seems that this channel, it doesn't matter what I do. All the efforts have been thwarted, so I honestly am trying to look at other things to do on the channel. But, obviously not welcome, right? But I just still would be interested to know what's happening in the bills. Okay, so, well.
Same mistakes that got Canada into this mess. Canada can't trust the Liberals gambling with their futures. When will the Prime Minister stop hiding the state of our finances and release a budget?
Government Transformation and Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very proud to have been elected with this government on a strong mandate to reduce bureaucracy, make government more efficient. We're working on it, and the goal is to spend less so that we can invest more, and that's exactly what we're doing with a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. That's going to save on average per Canadian family $840. I'm hoping Conservatives will rally behind this common sense idea. Thank you.
The member for Regina, Wascana. Mr. Speaker, over the last 10 years, the Liberal government's debt and deficits have been out of control. The Prime Minister said that his government had a plan to cap its spending increase at 2% and to cut expensive government consultants. But now the Liberals want to quadruple that spending increase and to spend 36% more on consultants, all without any accountability. Mr. Speaker, why are the Liberals spending $500 billion with no budget? The Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy by the question by the member. In fact, what he's failing to tell Canadians watching today is that, in fact, Canada has one of the best balance sheets in the G7, Mr.
Yeah, okay, one of the best balance, I guess. Okay. Okay, yeah, so C1, 40, this is the 45th sitting of Parliament. One, legislative, okay, this is it, 45th Parliament, first session on the 26th at President Act, representing the administration of oath of office bill type. So it's just the people that are, he's put in his cabinet, his oaths of office, right? Official. House of Government Bill pro forma sponsor as the Prime Minister. The text of this bill is not available. Summary current status introduced as a pro forma bill. Okay, so there we go. That's that bill. I have to find the other bill. The only other two bills I'm finding on their website, on the official website, is that is a bill by Johns of the NDP and a Bloc Québécois leader. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Oh, Aaron Gunn is talking. Let's see what's that going on.
Mr. Speaker, not only we have a AAA credit rating, Mr. Speaker, but we have the lowest debt to GDP ratio, Mr. Speaker. That is an enviable position. I just presided over the G7 Finance Minister meeting in Banff recently. Mr. Speaker, the world is watching what Canada has to offer, and the world wants what Canada has to offer, Mr. Speaker. In this sense, Mr. Speaker, we're going to build the strongest economy of the G7. We're going to make this country resilient and ambitious for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord, Kawawachkamach Nitassinan. Mr. Speaker, 10 years ago the Liberals came to power and they promised to reform the EI system. Year after year, they assured workers that they were almost ready to act, that it would only take a few months at the most. But 10 years later, the EI reform has not even made the slightest appearance in the throne speech. And yet, we're at a time when we're in a trade war with the U.S., and key industries like aluminum are being affected by these tariffs. Does this government realize that this is the worst time to abandon our workers?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, we've already taken actions to strengthen EI and remove some of the challenges for workers who are facing unemployment to access EI. We know that we need to respond deftly as these tariffs threaten our workers across Canada, and that is exactly what the Prime Minister has asked me and my colleagues to do. We'll continue to be there for workers. We'll continue to have an employment insurance system that works for everyone.
The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, there was not a single word about EI reform in the throne speech. And yet, we're in a tariff crisis. To back down on reforming EI would be to betray workers. The Liberals have been promising this reform for 10 years. They've carried out so many studies, so many consultations. Enough talk. It's time to walk the walk. Will this government reveal when exactly it will bring in EI reform? Or is it just going to admit to workers that it's abandoning them? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, this is a time of great tariff uncertainty and great uncertainty about trade with the U.S. At a time like this, it is essential that we protect our workers. That is why we've made EI easier to access. We have eliminated the waiting period before being able to access EI. We've also ensured that we no longer consider severance pay and so on to be part of something that could claw back EI. That way, we can have an EI system that protects everyone.
Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Speaker, on day one of his new job, the Prime Minister's housing minister told Canadians that home prices don't need to come down. After 10 years, the Liberals have doubled housing prices, down payments, mortgage payments, and rent. And now the housing minister is doubling down to keep home costs high. Can the Minister of Housing tell Canadians how many more families must fall behind before his government takes action and finally tables a budget?
Minister of Housing.
The one thing is like saying, hey, the one person is like saying, hey, my food bills are going up. And then then when you look at it, they're like eating steak, AAA every day. The one thing I think that there should be a promotion and a help. If this is if the green focus, like this is kind of thing that irks me, is like, hey, how do you bring things down? I think. It's it's becoming a lost art of canning and growing your own food. I think that, a lot of people, like, you see it, and it's funny, I find it odd. People in the country, and they don't even have gardens anymore. These politicians are promoting gardens. It's not always to save money. It's a good pastime. That's what I think. Hobby, whatever, what have you. It's a healthy, good one. But it's also, if for the green priest people, it's also says, hey, like they're like, oh, buy local, it's less government. I agree, or less harmful to the environment and all these other things, and it's it supports the people around you. I agree with that 100%. But what's even more local than in your backyard, right? I think that's something that should be promoted and should be promoted through tax benefits, saying hey, let's take GST off of anything, any backyard greenhouses, like the glass ones, not those. I don't think we're allowed the plastic ones in suburbia, but these things and other items associated with it, greenhousing and that the food aspect of it, not helping wealthy people put a special rhododendron, you know what I mean? The latest rhododendron in their yard. I mean, food-oriented processes. I know it may be a bit of a headache, but I think that's something that the green cycle going forward, and this is more, for me, a societal thing. It's a healthy, good for society thing. I believe it to be. And it'll say, hey, look, we're doing something as well.
Mr. Speaker, this government is taking action to put more money in Canadians' pockets by cutting their taxes right now. And we expect the support of the members opposite to ensure that Canadians can afford more housing options because they have more money in their pockets. It's simple math. Difficult for the Conservatives across maybe to comprehend, but cutting taxes on GST for first-time home buyers and income tax delivers more affordability.
The member for Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Speaker, the Ontario Land Registry Office, Terranet, reports the average age of a first-time home buyer in Ontario last year was 40. Up from 34 a decade earlier. New data also shows GTA home sales are the worst since the market crash of the 1990s. And at home, the Niagara Home Builders Association has said housing starts in Niagara are at a 10-year low. This is the Liberals' government's 10-year record, Speaker. So can the Prime Minister tell us why Canadians should trust him and his government to fix the problems they themselves created?
Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I served for 10 years as mayor of Vancouver on the front lines of a housing crisis.
Hear, hear.
Cities, as many mayors and councillors here in Ottawa this week know, do not have the tools, the finances, or the jurisdiction to solve a housing crisis. That's why I'm here now. I am here now so the federal government can implement changes to make housing more affordable at a scale not seen in generations.
Okay, this is just slinging it. He does not have an enviable position because even Mark Carney admitted his plan thus far. I think that, in my opinion, I don't know, but I think he doesn't. Mark Carney is trying not to go spending spending a lot out of the gates. And so I think that what really he's trying to do is doing incrementally increasing it is when he has to. But he admitted to on the CBC interview that he says it's years, not weeks, or years, not days. That's this housing crisis is fixed. So this MP, he's going to deal with this for years, and he's going to have no real rebuttal. Like his rebuttal, sounds weak. They go, we've eliminated GST. It doesn't do enough. So he's going to have this horrible mudslinging on him, and he won't be able to remove the mud very well. Maybe in a couple of years, that according to the Prime Minister, as it stands, I believe what most likely will happen is the pressure of the housing crisis and the opioid crisis will pressure the government, and the military crisis, right, will pressure the government to have to spend more. I believe that's the case. The Conservatives will have more dirt to throw, saying, look at the spending. But it doesn't matter. Even the Conservatives said in their 100-day plan that they definitely spending would be up high. Even the Conservatives. So, you know what I mean? And the thing is I don't think anyone is in the illusion that we're in an okay times, and reducing spending through efficiencies of like Doge and stuff like that, using new technologies. That's great. I think this is a great idea. But the other spending on the three crises, as I call it, the military crisis, which I heard a pundit say the other day, this silly Golden Dome. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm watching think tanks that scare the crap out of people, and that's their designation. But everyone's saying 2027. There's the fan. Don't stand under the fan in 2027. And we'll see if that's the case. I don't really know. But it definitely is not getting a softer, kinder world. Everyone seems to be. The Germans are which I don't like in any shape, way, or form. So there's the military part, the opioid epidemic, where we've lost more people. It's a war, and we're losing it. It's a war. It's the majority of the deaths are from one drug, and one drug coming from one area. And those millions of dollars billions actually of dollars that they're making off of that one drug is being put back into the country to help destroy our country from within and divide amongst ourselves. You can see it. I'm not going to go into that detail because hey, I'm already canceled anyway. So the military, and the opioid, and then the housing crisis not being fixed, and like he even admitted, years. I think that the pressure of these three weights, some of them are going to be from other NATO members, and from Trump, from Trump saying, pony up your. I don't know if that's derogatory, but give up the $61 billion to get involved with the security of North America, or I'm going to continue to push for Alberta to leave your country, right? And it won't be a happy situation. And then, Alberta goes to basically, major problems. Though right now that sentiment of the separation of it's lowering it. The people that are running it, I don't know them in any shape, way, or form, but they're sinking their own ship, which is good. I'm happy for that. Great. And it looks like it won't hit legislation for another year or so anyway. But anyway, this minister is definitely, as it stands, according to the Prime Minister, years away from having happy news. Real news that can be quiet up the opposition. The opposition is going to be able to stoke this for 2 years, which most likely most minority governments, it's a very strong minority government, but they usually only last about 2 years. We'll see what happens, but that's where we're at. All right. Okay. So yeah, I do not envy this housing minister's job at all. And who would? He's not going to have no relief on this pressure for 2 years. And every question period thus far, I'd say about a quarter, 25%, whatever, maybe 1/5 of all the questions have been directed in almost the same line of questioning as Toronto. The big talk is Toronto's market. They keep saying it. The politicians are saying it, that the housing builds are down, the sales are down, and the demand is up. So, there's the three angles are of the peace symbol are are being pressurized in the center, and that's not it's if it leads to a bubble, but the demand is there, so it doesn't seem to me that it can be a bubble. If there's a demand for the housing and there's people that are pre-approved, ready, working and have a pre-approved mortgage, just looking for a place to buy, then to me, I don't think that it can be a bubble. There's the demand to keep the bubble firm. But if the builders aren't building, they're basically waiting. It's like they're waiting for a big handout or something. And I believe what happened in Canada, as in many places, we used to have a lot of small builders, and that was don't want to say pushed. It just was a natural thing. A lot of like, hey, any guy who was good with a hammer could open up a business and open up a business. Now it seems that through legislative issues and headaches and stuff like that, that we're like more and more leaning on investment builders. They're investment companies, builders, and that's, I think, part of the problem. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But when the majority become that, is where I believe we're having more issues with the housing crisis. They know a fact is the larger the square footage, the more profit you make. So if you build a smaller place, you make less money. So, you can't, I don't expect, and who would expect a business to save the country's housing without a money incentive? A company's reason for existing is making money. It's not to save the country. And I wish we had them, but especially an investment company that's building. Remember, the investor's got to make their money, the owner's got to make their money, and they have to pay and build. So that's more than just a small racket's the wrong word. A small builder, right? He's got 5 guys that work for him, and he contracts out the electricians and the plumbers and other, and you know what I mean, a couple other little, you know what I mean, and the drywallers and stuff like that. Contracts out and stuff like that. That is usually they can larger, smaller profit margins, but they'll be happy to do it. And they're been pushed out of the market, slowly pushed out of the market for many reasons, and it's actually kind of a natural occurrence, I guess. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's the case.
The member for Cochin, Malahat, Langton.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years, the Liberals have doubled housing prices. The new minister's housing record shows the government is more of the same. As Mayor of Vancouver, he oversaw rent increasing 50%, house prices increasing 179%, and homelessness up 40%. And yet we know we must build more homes to meet demand. The City of Langford is actually discussing slowing down the development of homes, stating, quote, "There is no award for overachieving." How many more Canadians must struggle to find a home before this government finally tables a budget?
The Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, getting affordable homes built in Canada means partnership and collaboration across all levels of government. Federal government,
that's right.
Provinces and territories, cities, Indigenous communities. Challenges that we have on the ground in communities. For 7 of my 10 years as mayor, it was a Conservative government that did nothing for affordable housing across Canada.
That's right.
Deputy de Beauce.
The member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the housing minister on his first day in office told Canadians that how home prices don't need to come down and that the market is stable. But vacancy rate is under 2% in most towns in my riding. Costs have gone up about double since 2021. The government's measures are not enough. It's insufficient. Young Canadians deserve to be able to buy their own home. When will this government cut bureaucracy and bring forward real solutions to the housing crisis? The Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, these problems are very real. We have an excellent minister who can handle the matter, and we have a great plan too. In the meantime, we need to work together. We need to build more homes. We need to make housing more affordable. We need to help workers in the meantime, workers who are affected by Trump's tariff war. So, under the current circumstances, we are building a construction industry to help lumber workers, steel workers, and steel and aluminum workers. So I look forward to working with my colleague on this question. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, it's just not enough. Many young Canadians have lost their dream to own a home of their own. After 10 years, Liberals doubled rent, doubled mortgage payments, doubled home prices, and doubled mortgages. Canadians can't breathe, Mr. Speaker. According to the housing company, things have doubled recently in Quebec. Does the minister feel that prices in Quebec need to come down so that young people can make their dreams come true? Mr. Minister, yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here's what Quebecers and Canadians do want to know. They want to know how we're going to help them through this housing and affordability crisis. The minister has been clear about this, so has our government. We are cutting taxes. We are cutting taxes for the middle class. We also want to cut GST for first-time home buyers. We also cut the carbon tax. We are working to improve affordability. We're also going to create jobs in construction sectors.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to acknowledge and thank the constituents in my amazing riding, Saint-Boniface-Saint-Vital. I thank them for placing their trust in me to represent them here in the House of Commons.
Northern and Arctic Affairs. The prairies are affected by drought and warmer than normal temperatures for a third straight season. The conditions are fueling the severity of wildfires and posing significant risks to our communities. We're not yet in June, and thousands of Canadians across the prairies have been forced out of their homes, including thousands of...
Minister of Northern Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, my heart is with everyone across the country that is...
Okay, just to pause it for a quick second. Yeah, it's really, really, really bad. The forest season is... Flin Flon was just evacuated. I was looking for homes in Manitoba because it's the only... I love the province. I'm starting to. And I have a lot of respect for their premier. But, hey, you know what I mean? Whatever. I need to get more money again. But they just evacuated another town in Flin Flon. Not too large of a town, but still, they had to evacuate another town. Well, the hotels apparently across the province, they're already full. Excuse me. They're already full. So, wow. It's already bad. And this is the earliest time of year. And he's saying what Wab Kinew, the premier, NDP premier of Manitoba, said. 2 fires were converging. Two separate fires, and I guess when they converge, I don't know. He said, from the fire parks people said, when they converge, it makes usually a larger one. These 2 separate ones, and it makes it more intense and a larger problem for the water bombers and stuff like that. Whereas the 2 separate was more manageable, apparently. That's how he said it. So he's saying that's just about to happen in there. So Flin Flon's on the border of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, of course. So it is already an early fire season. I guess it's dry there, they're saying. Ontario, we're not having any smoke or anything, and anything that I've heard of. But this is early days, and the westerlies are the prevailing winds, right? So eventually our summer's going to smell like a fire again. It's awful. Makes me sneeze. And I quit smoking, and I don't like the smell of smoke. I'm the worst type of non-smoker. I detest the smell of the stuff now. Of course, I'm not a complainer to people. I believe in respecting other people's vices. But it was bad a couple summers ago. It was really bad here in the Niagara Falls. Literally, it just smelled. I thought it was a campfire all the time. I'm like, why is it like, who's having campfires? Is it like the homeless? And they're like, no, it's the fires that weren't. We didn't have any in the Niagara region, so for like 100, 200 miles, nothing. But the smell was coming down. This is a new minister, Cree, I believe. I don't want to step on my words. I'll let her speak.
Is affected by these devastating wildfires, especially the people of my riding, Churchill, Kuwait, Nukaski. The fear and uncertainty are overwhelming, but they are not alone. I remain in constant contact with my federal colleagues, provincial, local, Indigenous leaders, including Councillor Debbie Dumas, to ensure every person gets the support that they need. The federal government, the Canadian Armed Forces are fully mobilized, people are being evacuated, and we stand united in this crisis.
The member for North Island, Powell River.
After 10 years of Liberal government, Mr. Speaker, many Canadians no longer feel safe in their own communities. Violent crime is up 50%. Gang homicides are up 78%. Gun crime up 116%. The direct result of the revolving door Liberal justice system, or injustice system, I should say, and weak Liberal laws that serve the interest of criminals and not Canadians. So, Mr. Speaker, if this really is a new government, will the Prime Minister repeal Trudeau's old soft on crime policies, including Bill C-5 and Bill C-75?
The Minister of Public Safety.
Our plan to keep communities safe will keep drugs, guns, and criminals off our streets. We're committed to hiring 1,000 more CBSA and 1,000 more RCMP officers to secure our border and help keep our streets safe. We're partnering with police services across the country to fight organized crime. We will make it tougher for violent criminals to get bail and impose stricter sentences for repeat violent offenders. We will always be there to protect Canadians.
The member for North Island, Hull River.
Mr. Speaker, the now Minister of Public Safety said during the campaign that there was nothing wrong with the bail system in Canada. He even said it was, quote, quite sound. This despite the deadly spree of murders and other violent attacks committed by those out on bail and frontline officers across the country demanding immediate reform. So does the Prime Minister agree with his Minister of Public Safety that there's no problem with the bail laws in Canada or the frontline officers who are demanding real action now?
Hear, hear. Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, it's always heartening to see the opposition clip something that's completely out of context. And unfortunately, the Conservative candidate in my riding didn't even show up for the debate. So let me just be clear. Our government was elected on April the 28th with a mandate of ensuring that our communities are safe. That is exactly what we will do. We will work with law enforcement. This morning, I had the opportunity to meet, along with the Minister of State for Labour, members of the CPA, Canadian Police Association, and I look forward to working with law enforcement across this country to make our communities safer, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Elmwood Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, after knocking on thousands of doors in my community this past spring, I heard the same concerns, that people are worried about the rise in crime. In Winnipeg, violent crimes like assaults, threats, and extortion are increasing. Homicide Canada reported that in 2024, Winnipeg saw over 40 homicides for the 6th year in a row. Because of Liberal bills C5 and C75, repeat violent offenders are treated with kid gloves and get released. When will the Liberals finally put the rights of victims and law-abiding Canadians ahead of their soft-on-crime, hug-a-thug agenda?
The Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. Mr. Speaker.
All right, I'm going to pipe in. I don't know. This is my personal opinion is jail has never worked really much. As you can tell, the more we incarcerate people, states especially, the more they incarcerate, their crimes are still going up. The jail needs to be having more of a reform part. I know a lot of people who they say tough on crime are not, they're not an advocate of it. But if you go look at what they're doing in the Scandinavian countries, it's more holistic, whatever, way of trying to integrate the people into society, into, like, you know what I mean, kind of reading poetry and stuff like that. Instead of this, put them in there, and it makes the victim or whatever, you know what I mean? Hey, I've been a victim for sure. She's got the scars, and there's no one, you know what I mean? They're not handling it. They can't get a handle on the largest amount of deaths since World War II, and that to me is broken windows. You got to fix the small crimes need to be worked on, and then all the way up, because it's organized, and the police are they're underwater. They can't catch it, and it's my opinion. But the basic bottom line is that this larger incarceration and just larger bar jails, like iron bar jails, it actually just increases the amount of crime. And a lot of times it makes them a better criminal. It gets them into a gang. It gets them into an organization, these jail gangs and gulags in the States. Kind of thing. And it's really, to me, is not. I personally think if you want to fix the problem, you look at the countries that are actually fixing the problem. The States is making it worse. China as well, a highly incarcerated country, and it's increasing. Scandinavia has decreased, and then they had a large influx of people come in, and there's been a couple, Sweden specifically. It's not the people per se. It's just that they haven't been indoctrinated. You know, it takes time. When you take in a large amount of people, you know what I mean? It's not the immigration thing. It's that they took in too many people that they could actually indoctrinate and you know what I mean, and fully take care of, right? In a good, healthy way. What do they say is the mother of all crime? Poverty, right? So, and that's what I believe is the problem. They just went too far, and they pushed the agenda too far. But overall, the Scandinavian countries, Denmark specifically, their crime is going down. especially with the regular populace. And their recidivism rate, which is the number that I like to see, is, in the UK, you went to jail, you did something bad, I guess. Right? That has to be, okay, you did that, but do you go back? Do you continue to be an angry, whatever you did? You know what I mean? And that, to me, is the one that really needs to focus on. But I don't think they focus on it because there's too much, in my opinion, focus on let's get him or her. And we're not getting enough of them. The organized is like 10 they say 3 degrees of separation. It's like 7 degrees of separation we're getting. We're getting the guy with the neck tattoo that's being picked on by the local people that freaks out on the street, right? That's taking these street drugs that are poisoning his or her mind. And that's what's really, and they can only deal with that because they don't even have the agenda to get to the higher levels. Like, we're talking billions of dollars we're dumping into our country, and we can't get ahead of it. He just said, Andy, I have a lot, I think he's a decent, nice person, but they're saying they're hiring more 1,000 RCMP. I think we need to triple that, quadruple it. It just needs to be, I think that there needs to be a surge, personally, a surge to lower the level. So people start, you know what I mean? They get a different life. But it also needs to have more blue-collar jobs, right? The studies of, as we know, the Niagara region was a blue-collar area, and we had a lot lower crime rates when people had to work, because who wants to risk their job when they have a decent paying job, they got their house and stuff like that? Why do I want to risk crime? Maybe they'll buy a little bit of a bag of baddies and stuff like that, or whatever. But to go into it like as a part-time or to do it on the side, or what do they call moonlighting it, or whatever, as a criminal, no, people are like, no, I make enough money, I'm good, right? I'll do the weekend, odd weekend, at worst, majority of people. Whereas then when there's not much work, it's just people are like, well, why not do the full life of crime? And, that's just, I think, this is my opinions on it. It makes you feel good to pound a person down, but it's really making society only worse. We're not getting better, society. We're just having more pointing the fingers and not looking at our own selves, I think.
I'll take a moment to thank my constituents for returning me to the House of Commons for the 4th time and rising as the first time as Minister of Justice and Attorney General. Talking to people during the campaign back home, they said when dangerous people commit serious crimes and pose a threat to the public safety, they should face serious consequences. We have listened to them, Mr. Speaker, and are moving forward with stronger bail provisions for auto theft, for home invasions, for drug trafficking. We're also going to advance stronger sentences for serious crimes and for repeat offenders. We're going to do what it takes to ensure that Canadians can feel safe in their communities and be safe in their communities.
The member for Richmond Centre Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, since 2016, 50,000 Canadians died from drug overdoses, mostly from fentanyl. Mass fentanyl production is mass murder. Conservatives propose life sentences for producing or distributing over 40 milligrams. How many more Canadians must die before the Prime Minister treats mass production of fentanyl as mass murder and supports life sentence for drug kingpins?
Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the fentanyl crisis has impacted every community, not just in Canada, in North America, and many communities around the world. We're accelerating our work to crack down and dismantle the fentanyl trade and organized crime groups that profit from it. That's why we listed 7 cartels as terrorist entities under the criminal code. And I'm working closely with Kevin Brasso, Canada's fentanyl czar, at home and abroad, to put a laser-sharp focus on dismantling fentanyl rings, Mr. Speaker. We will always be there to protect Canadians.
The member for Portage-Lisker.
Like most Canadians, I don't stash my assets in offshore tax havens in Bermuda or the Cayman Islands. And like them, I believe in shining a little sunlight on the people who govern us. The Prime Minister claims his assets are in a blind trust, but Canadians are the ones completely in the dark. He absolutely knows what his assets were before he placed them into a blind trust. So I'll ask a simple question that deserves a simple answer. Does the Prime Minister knowingly or blindly hold any financial interests in any offshore tax havens? Yes or no?
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are so proud to have a new Prime Minister with a clear vision of the country, with a plan to rebuild our economy, a plan to take on the tariff challenges with the United States, the plan to give prosperity to all Canadians, and of course, a plan to comply stringently with the Code of Ethics for all parliamentarians, which is among the most stringent in the world. He will be complying, that member will be complying, we will all be complying, and Canadians should feel very reassured about that.
Member for Portage Lisford.
I do not feel reassured. I certainly did not hear a no in there, but what we do know is that this Prime Minister was implicated in setting up offshore tax havens to avoid paying Canadian taxes. We know he's sitting on stocks from Brookfield assets, which is riddled with conflicts of interest and benefits handsomely from government conflicts. We know he's perfectly fine to promote companies Brookfield owns on the debate stage, so what will he do to help himself behind the closed doors of government? Canadians deserve to know if he will financially benefit from any current or future contracts Brookfield gets with his government. So when will the Prime Minister come clean and tell Canadians what assets he personally holds?
Government House Leader.
Speaker, this Prime Minister has been the governor of 2 central banks, has a successful career that I'm sure he's very proud of in the private sector, has come to public service once again, another tour of public service for our Prime Minister with a clear plan to get Canada's economy back on track. That's what the Prime Minister is up to. What he's also up to is stringent compliance with the Code of Ethics that this Parliament has imposed upon itself, one of the most serious and stringent in the world. Canadians should feel very reassured.
The member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister has a plan, we'd sure love to see it here in Parliament. Mr. Speaker, on the eve of the election, when he was trying to get elected, the Prime Minister went on an Oilers radio show in Edmonton, asked about oil. He said, quote, "There's a massive opportunity. If you look out east, particularly in Quebec, they import about 365,000 barrels a day. 70% of that's coming from the U.S. So we've got an opportunity to displace there." But in the past, well, first of all, he's got a Quebec minister who's now looking at me in complete disagreement with those statements. But even the Prime Minister has said as much as half of oil reserves, proven oil reserves, need to stay in the ground.
The Minister
Which of the Prime Minister's position should we believe?
Minister for Energy and Natural Resources.
Quebec has been very, very time-oriented.
Mr. Speaker, to win this trade war, we will build on Canada's terms to deliver the strongest, most resilient economy in the G7. Canada's new government will cut red tape, fast-track projects of national interest, and guarantee decisions within 2 years. We are not building just for speed. We are building for purpose, to have a strong negotiating hand and unlock the next generation of Canadian prosperity. We will get projects built to make Canada an energy superpower.
The member for
That candidate is a star leading candidate. Here, I'll put 1 second back here. He's a star leading candidate for natural resources. He's expected to focus on some projects to get Canada moving forward with these large projects, investments, and so on and so forth. I personally hope that we start. I know what you're thinking. We're seeing some large hydro projects that are happening instead of fuels and powers of 1911. As you know, it's the case. We're about to see the car industry having a major shakeup next year with Slate, SLATE, $18,000 American. Truck, $18,000. Bare, roll-up windows. But all the accessories you can imagine. So plastic body on it, but safety, high in the safety level, very, very high in the safety. But the panels and stuff like that, you can make them yourself and paint them and all kinds of stuff. You can put all these wraps on it. I recommend you look it up. SLATE, Slate. Jeff Bezos is behind it, and it I believe is going to shake up the market. It's going to make Tesla and the big 5 or big 3 companies start selling the same thing. So We know this from the past and the history. Once the car companies sell a car that gets you from point A to point B with no bells and whistles, that car becomes the number one selling car. We know this from the Granada. The K car, which saved Chrysler in the 1980s. The Chevette, which was the most, the highest selling car. The Chevette. It was the highest selling car because that's really what most people what they want is point A to point B. All the bells and whistles and stuff like that, that's just so the company makes money. And most car companies are no longer making as much profit on the manufacturing. They make more money on the loans. They're more financial institutions than they are that. So, you know what I mean? They're going to have companies like Jeff Bezos and I guess Tesla and whatever, a bunch of other companies that are coming up. Zero is a Canadian one that does motorcycles. They have a $20,000 electric motorcycle at the moment. It's really cool. It's nice. I like the idea that you can sit on a patio and you don't have to smell diesel. That's, to me, is the biggest dollar, and you don't have to hear the roar of a million cars, especially in downtowns. It'll quiet up our area. It'll quiet up everything. It's peace. So this is good. This backlash against EVs, I think it has more to do with saving the $120,000 jobs than anything. And I believe, truthfully, that the car companies should be selling base models more and looking to the future of flying. Obviously on autopilot, not people driving, not people flying, not getting more people pilot's license, having an autopilot, like, an automatic thing, because our AI is getting there, and it's close. I think that's where we should be focused on, instead of saving oil and gas, the brand new technology of 1911. Anyway, this we're going to see what's happening going forward.
Of Canadian prosperity. We will get projects built to make Canada an energy superpower.
The member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin. Look, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister went on to say, like we've got this resource, at a minimum, we should be using it all the time ourselves, because we're going to use what I call conventional oil and gas for the rest of my life and beyond. He said that in Edmonton when he was trying to get elected, but he has a history of saying that we should leave oil and gas in the ground. When will this government finally repeal Bill C-69 to create the conditions that will actually allow us to take advantage of this massive opportunity to be realized?
Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Speaker, I'd like to give a shout out to the Edmonton Oilers who won last night. So, Mr. Speaker, my goal is to get things built where we have proponents. We will make Canada strong and protect ourselves from American tariffs. I encourage my Conservative colleagues to join us in building the strongest economy in the G7.
West.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's energy sector and economy continues to be held back by Liberal anti-energy laws like the industrial carbon tax and Bill C-69, which blocks all new energy infrastructure. This is compounded by Justin Trudeau's energy production cap, which will kill 54,000 jobs and gut $20 billion from the Canadian economy. This new Prime Minister likes to market himself as the anti-Trudeau. Well, it's time for him to prove it. Will the Prime Minister repeal the industrial carbon tax, repeal C-69, and repeal the oil and gas production cap? Or is he just another Trudeau clone willing to let our energy sector die?
Great question.
Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Today, Canadians are facing threats to our way of life from both climate change and American tariffs. We are tackling these problems head-on by building clean energy projects that will fight climate change and make Canada the strongest economy in the G7. The industrial carbon price attracts new investment, creates jobs, and grows our economy. With innovation in carbon capture, we will build low-cost, low-risk, low-carbon superpower. I encourage my colleagues to join us in building a stronger Canada.
The member for Sudbury.
Monsieur le Président, Sudbury.
Mr. Speaker, Sudbury, like Canada itself, has everything it needs to be an economic powerhouse. Sudbury has a skilled workforce, abundant natural resources, world-class research facilities too. Throughout the campaign, I heard from researchers, innovators, and business leaders who wanted to know how the federal government will help them navigate this period of uncertainty. Can the Minister of Industry inform the House how we will fight in order to protect and build a prosperous and resilient Canadian economy? The Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for her question, and I also thank her on her election in Sudbury and her hard work for the people of Sudbury. She is right that the American tariff war and trade war does cause a lot of uncertainty throughout Canada. That's why we're going to invest significantly to create jobs throughout the country, including in her riding of Sudbury and in Northern Ontario in general. We will attract investment from around the world. We will decrease our dependence on Americans. Canada is open for business.
Mr. Speaker, just hours before the May long weekend, Parks Canada blindsided my region by banning motorized boats on Clear Lake after confirming access a week earlier. There was no consultation or warning. Locals cared deeply about the lake, which is why the agency's one boat, one lake policy had broad support. But when asked what suddenly changed, Parks Canada refused to justify its damning decision that caused whiplash in the region. Will the minister reinstate the one boat, one lake policy that Parks Canada supported just weeks ago?
Great question.
Minister of Canadian Identity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, in that lake and in that region, we are facing a zebra mussel invasion, which we must intervene to control. Otherwise, it could spread in the region, in other water basin, and around that area, Mr. Speaker, which is why with Parks Canada, with local partners, with Indigenous partners who support what Parks Canada has been doing, we are trying to tackle this issue as rapidly as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, that answer is unacceptable. The mismanagement by Parks Canada of Riding Mountain National Park is not new, and neither is the minister's refusal to act. He's been warned time and again that Parks Canada ongoing failures. No communication, no engagement, and no accountability. Every time Canadians raise the alarm, the minister insists things will improve. But nothing ever changes, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister finally take responsibility and replace the superintendent of Riding Mountain National Park to restore trust and confidence?
Great. That's right. Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture.
Mr. Speaker, what the member opposite is saying is simply not true. And we have, in fact, been working with local authorities. Parks Canada provided funding to compensate some of the loss in revenues last year because of the closure. As we are trying to tackle this very important crisis, it is totally irresponsible for this member to somehow suggest that we should just let the zebra mussel spread all around Manitoba. Imagine the impacts for local drinking water, for commerce, for businesses all across the province. This is totally irresponsible, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, as fires burn across the prairies, I know I speak for everyone in this House that our hearts are with all of those who have been impacted and those who are working tirelessly to protect our communities. Now, in the wake of the Jasper fire, we learned about the devastating consequences of poor forest management that failed to clear swaths of dead forests. Experts are now sounding the alarm that communities in national parks like Banff face similar threats this summer. Can the government tell us what preparations, if any, have been undertaken by Parks Canada to protect communities from wildfire?
Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, I'm monitoring the wildlife situation around the clock, and I'm in close communication with my provincial counterparts. The Canadian Armed Forces are evacuating First Nations and others affected by the wildfires. Leaving your home under these circumstances is incredibly difficult, and our government will continue to support and protect all of those affected by wildfires. There's nothing more important than keeping Canadians safe.
Don Valley North.
At the doors in Don Valley North, I heard from many constituents that access to affordable housing is one of their top concerns. I, like every member on this side, feel proud to stand with a government that has put forward the most ambitious housing plan this country has seen since the Second World War. Can the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure tell my constituents what they can look forward to seeing from this plan?
Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for the question and thank the voters in Don Valley North for electing her here to this House. We will get hundreds of thousands of new homes built, more affordable homes across Canada, and double the share of non-market affordable housing in this country by starting up Build Canada Homes, a new entity that will build affordable homes at scale across Canada, utilizing public land and even existing structures. We will be cutting municipal development charges, working with municipalities to bring down those costs as well, and much more.
Bravo.
The member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. On July 6, 2013, the town of Mégantic, Lac Mégantic, experienced the worst railway tragedy in Canadian history. 47 people lost their lives. 4,344 days later, despite political commitments and several unanimous motions in this House, the citizens of Lac Mégantic are still waiting for work to begin on the rail bypass to get the train out of the town centre. Justin Trudeau declared to the people of Lac Mégantic on May 11, 2018, "We're going to get it done." When will the Minister of Transport come to Lac Mégantic to tell the people the truth and explain why trains are still running through our town centre? The Minister of Transport. Thank you for the question. This is a very serious matter. As newly appointed Minister of Transport, I would like to begin by expressing my most sincere sympathy to all those in Lac Mégantic who suffered enormously. This is a top priority for our government. This matter must be a priority for our government. In fact, it should be a priority for all members of Parliament. We will get it done.
Speaker, yesterday I tabled the first private member's bill in this Parliament, Bill C-201, which aims to bring mental health, addictions, and substance use services into our universal public health care system. The last Liberal government promised to ensure mental health is treated as a full and equal part of Canada's public health care system, but they failed to deliver. Untreated mental illness has enormous costs for families, communities, and our economy. Will this new government recognize that investing in mental health is good for all Canadians and support my bill?
The Honourable Minister.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to thank the constituents of Papineau who have given me the privilege to represent them here in this House. I would also like to thank the opposition member for his question. I would like to assure him that mental health is a priority for me. Canadians who need mental health services should know that the federal government will work closely with provinces and territories so that they can access these services. Thank you.
Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Saskatchewan and Manitoba burn, there's precious little content in the speech from the throne on how this government plans to approach the climate crisis. There's not a single reference to the Paris Agreement and our legally binding targets to cut emissions by at least 40% by 2030. November 2024, we were only 7% below 2005 levels. When will this government present a plan? So far, all they've done is cut the one measure that was working.
Hear, hear.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, as the members mentioned, there are wildfires raging across our country. It brings to the heart just how important climate change is and fighting climate change is for our strong, secure future for our country. I'm absolutely committed to working with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples to make sure that we reduce our emissions, fight climate change, and keep Canadians safe.
That concludes question periods.
So